Senator Lankford.
Director Brennan, thanks for being here again. You helped lead, or did lead, when President Obama was President-elect Obama in 2008, the intelligence transition team. It was part of your responsibility to be able to brief the future president at that time on some of the issues that were blinking red, I think the term was used, on the intelligence community. If you were helping organize for that next transition, because we'll have a new president next year, what are the key things you could articulate right now are blinking red for the new president?
Cyber, certainly. That individual, whoever's elected, will need to use their all 4 or 8 years in order to tackle this issue, because it's going to take time in order to come up with the types of understandings that are necessary. Terrorism is going to continue to plague us, and that's related to the cyber issue and how we're going to make sure that FBI and NSA and CIA and others are able to do their job to protect this country. Proliferation is something that we cannot forget about, and which is brought into stark relief by the activities of North Korea and Kim Jong-un, and the continued development of his nuclear program and ballistic missile capability that is a threat not just to the region but also to us. Instability in a number of countries in the Middle East and Africa, and the lack of governance capabilities within these countries, so that they are unable to tackle the political, the economic, the societal, the cultural challenges. And I am really worried about how instability is going to continue to erode and corrode some of the foundations of governance, and how more and more individuals, because of their feelings of being disenfranchised from their governments, are now identifying with subnational groups, whether it be with an ISIL or a Nusra or Boko Haram or others. They're not identifying themselves as Somalis, or Nigerians, or Yemenis. They're identifying themselves as part of a confessional group or a terrorist organization. That is a very, very disturbing trend that I believe that this country can play a role in trying to help address. We cannot solve it on our own.
Do you think that we would have less proliferation of ISIL and ISIS, whatever you want to call them today? We would have less of the movement of terrorism worldwide if there was not a safe haven in Syria and Iraq?
That is a big, big part of it. We need to take away their safe haven because it gives them the opportunity to use these lands to train and to fight, but also to gain revenue. And their control of large cities like Mosul and Raqqa and these population centers, as well as oil fields, it generates revenue not just to keep their fighters on the battlefield, but also to try to support some of these terrorist operations abroad.
Are there strike possibilities that are out there that could reduce the amount of money that is flowing to ISIS right now that we are not taking, or that should be have at a higher tempo?
I think the U.S.-led coalition has done a good job going after some of these bulk cash sites, as well as the oil infrastructure and refining capabilities. It's intermingled with a lot of the locals and civilians who are trying to eke out in existence. So I think the military has done a very good job. There's more work to be done. That's where intelligence is so important, so we can give them the insights into what they can do.
So help me understand the tempo of the pro-Syrian forces, including the Russians and others, and their airstrike tempo compared to our airstrike tempo.
Unfortunately, they're directing a lot of their airstrikes and artillery barrages against the Free Syrian Army that is trying to unseat Bashar Assad. And just looking out over the past 2 weeks, the amount of airstrikes in the Aleppo area, where many of the Syrian moderate opposition operate, has exceeded the pre-cessation of hostilities totals. So yes, the Russians and Syrians have gone after ISIL as well as Jabhat al-Nusra, but a large proportion of their strikes are directed against what we consider to be the legitimate Syrian opposition that are trying to save their country from Bashar Assad.
And you anticipate at this point that the number of strikes that are out there exceed the cessation of hostilities, which seems to be a piece of paper at this point. It doesn't seem to be an actual cessation of hostilities.
It is holding by a thread, particularly in the areas of Aleppo, Latakia, also in the Damascus countryside. Let
me ask on the intelligence agreements that we have, open skies, other things that we hold to so strongly to the letter and the spirit of it. Do the Russians also hold to the letter and the spirit of those agreements?
We'll have to get back to you in another setting on that,
okay,
sir.
All right. Thank you. I yield back.